right, Jack. Mizzy on Mac. HS on deck, no meds, my S bake off with gap. Yes. Friends in the camp, but still.
Yo, such a for back with another story time now. You thought I was just gonna give you one for the 20k special. Fam, one story I've been kind of putting up. I didn't really know how I was gonna phrase it. Like, I didn't know I was gonna structure it. But the thought came to me just now. GCSE science. So you hear a lot of things. Oh, I'd do anything to go back and have one more science lesson. We were seeing that when we were in those science lessons. I was literally, shout out to me, one of my best friends ever. When I got moved form, I thought the world was over. Like, I thought I got moved into the worst form. That's a whole nother story in itself. Like, if you lot are lucky, maybe at like 100k or 200k, I'll tell you why I got moved form. But shout out to me each and every time. When I got moved form, he literally became my new best friend in that form. I needed someone to actually like rock with in that form. It was just gonna be long. And this guy and I, the things we did in year 9, like the things he put those teachers through, that's a whole other story in itself. But we ended up in the same science class for GCSEs. Like, these actually kind of mattered. And here we are, 2 troublemakers. Shout out Martin, shout out Josh, shout out Oscar. We're all in the same class. Never gonna be a good idea. So one of the first things that happened, I'd say there was this guy that you didn't really want to be around. You didn't want to get on his bad side because he was a scary guy. Can't lie. He was a scary bloke. And there was one time he was sat at the back of the class on his phone because he's at the back. He didn't think anyone could see him. I don't think I was even on his row like that. Then out of nowhere, we just hear a knock on the window. Dun, 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 dun. And one of the biggest teachers at the school, like literally like one of the most higher ranking teachers at the school, banging on the window. And we were like, hey, what's going on? And he's like, he's got his phone. And we're like, huh? And we turn around and this guy just sat there with his phone. No one clocked until this point, yeah. So the teacher's like, okay, give me your phone then. Like, he's got a Scottish accent. I'm not going to do it out of respect for him. But he's like, okay, give me your phone. And the guy's like, you're not touching my phone. He's like, give me your phone. Like, you've been caught out, give me your phone. He's like, you're not touching my phone. And he's like, give me your phone right now. And he's like, you're not touching my phone. He starts screaming at the teacher, swearing at the teacher. We literally just sat there like, it was just a normal lesson. Like, nothing had happened. And then out of nowhere, this guy, like, what are the odds that a teacher walks past you when you're on your phone and actually starts knocking on the window to get the teacher's attention from outside the room? So we literally just sat there like spectating. This guy's literally swearing with the teacher. And then he just runs out of the room. Like, he just ran, swears at the teacher. We just sat there like, what the hell have we just witnessed? Anyway, so that's one thing. Then there was another time where I'll tell you, I'll go from like least bad to the very worst. So there was another time. This was like the final straw for our physics teacher. That was chemistry. This was the final straw for our physics teacher. So we're there, and we're just there. It was me and Martin at the front, and he's doing a practical. I can't remember what the practical was. It was irrelevant. Yeah. This Martin guy, being the crackhead he is, like, even to this day, I fear this man. Like, I thought I was like a crazy guy. Like, I do things that people don't want to do because why would you do that? Then there's Martin. Like, Martin's like me on crack. So we literally just sat there by the window. He's doing the practical, so everyone's at the front. Obviously, during Corona time, that's not happening anymore, social distancing. But this was before that. We're all just crowded around the teacher, seeing what's going on, what we're going to be doing for the lesson. Don't know if that's what happens in other schools, but whenever you have a practical, they show you, they demonstrate it, and then you go and do that. So, but that's the thing with me. I clocked very early on that with practicals, you don't really need to do it because by the end of the lesson, we're all going to be copying out the same results. So I clocked that very early on. And whenever it was a practical, I messed about. So we'll get onto that because most of this stuff happened in practicals because I realised, what's the point of me doing this if you're just going to ask the smart girl what she got and then that's what's going to go in my book? You don't need my answers for this. So we literally just stood at the front watching the practical and I don't know what possessed Martin to do this, but he opened the blind, like he pulled up the blind and there was a bee. Yeah, so first of all, I don't know what a bee is doing in a classroom for stars. I don't know how it got there. But it wasn't any old bee. This bee was huge. Like some big bee. I was like, yo, me being me, like, I don't know. I just don't like getting stung. I don't like getting bitten. I don't like getting crawled on. So any mini beast like that, I'm gone. I'm sorry, I'm gone. So I saw it. I jumped out. I screamed. I was like, aye. Screamed. The teacher's like, oh, what are you doing? I'm literally screaming over this bee. So then Martin just wouldn't stop fiddling around the blind. He started arguing with the teacher. He got sent out. I was laughing my head off. I got sent out. Josh started messing about. He got sent out. This is all at the front literally watching the practical. One by one, we're just getting sent out. Samir gets sent out. Oscar gets sent out. So all 5 of the people, me included, that I named at the start, that were in this classroom causing havoc, were all outside at once. So his brain must have gone into overload. Like, he carried on to the practical. Then he's like, wait a minute, have I just sent them? He runs outside the room. He's like, oh, you lot, you're taking it too far. So that day he realised, I can't, like, this isn't going to run. Him being the head of science, I think he was, realised, wait a minute, I got the power here. I don't like these 5 being together, splitting them all up. We got split up. I was lucky I stayed, Oscar stayed, Samir stayed, but Josh and Martin got moved down. I don't know why, I don't know how you're set, like, I don't know why your behaviour should dictate what set you're in, but that's the decision that was taken that day. Anyway, back to Martin being a cracker. There was another time, again, when we were at the front waiting on a practical, and I don't know what, I still don't know the reasoning behind this, but we stood there. I'm literally leaning against the sink, and you'd think that my times of seeing madness in the classroom would be done. Like, who sees a bee behind them when they're just minding their own business? Well, today it would get a little bit worse. There was a spider. Now, not any old spider. To this day, probably the biggest spider I've ever seen in the flesh, just chilling in the sink. So I'm like, okay, what the hell? Someone literally said, Sachi, turn around. Now, everyone knew I was scared of spiders. I turned around, I screamed, literally jumped, ran across the room, like, what the hell? The teacher's like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, yo, why is there a spider there? What the hell? Then everyone goes to crowd around, see what it is. Believe it or not, there was a spider in the sink. Everyone's like, yo, he's not making it up. I don't know why that's there, but there's a pretty big spider just chilling in the sink. So when I bring Martin in again, Martin being the cracker that he is, after the lesson, I don't know why the teacher left us 2 in the room. Like, of all the people, I think it was last period, he's just trying to go home. Bad idea, rookie mistake. This Martin guy took off his shoe and slapped the spider dead, and we just ran out the room. Like, I didn't even check to see if it was dead. I wasn't trying to risk it. I didn't want it. You see that episode of Gumball when they're having a funeral for Penny's tarantula? Then Gumball goes to the toilet, lifts up the lid, the tarantula's there, and then it jumps up into his face. I wasn't trying to recreate that, so I just left. I got my stuff, left. Next lesson, me being the clown that I was, I wanted to see how this teacher would react. I didn't know if he'd clocked or anything. So I put my hand up. He's like, okay, yeah. And then I'm like, what happened to the spider? Like, is everything good? He's like, oh, he ran away. I'm like, no, I knew what happened to the spider. That wasn't a problem. I wasn't overreacting or anything. I was like, hold up. Are you telling me if this spider actually had ran away, like this borderline tarantula, this guy he just ran away. And he was calm about it. I'm like, yo, you're telling me you'd be calm and just letting some random tarantula loose in the school? Okay, I see where your head's at. Anyway, now we get on to the bigger stories. Like, there were times in biology, not too much that I can remember happening in biology because the practicals were kind of different, but one time back into chemistry, that was chemistry as well, the spider story. Back into chemistry again. This is where all the nonsense happened. We just did not have any respect for this teacher. So we're back in chemistry now, and rubber was a big thing when I was in school. We just cut up rubber and throw at each other. We had rainbow looms. They got banned pretty quick. They got stamped on. Of course, I was the one that took the rap for that back in like year 8. They clocked onto those pretty quick. They were literally scattered around the whole school at one point. But rubber bands, no, not rubber bands, just rubber to rub stuff out. You can't really ban that. It's kind of a necessity in the school pencil case. So if someone's messing about rubber, you're gonna have to just firm it. So the same guy that got clocked for being on the phone the last time, he's just sat there chopping up rubber. Like, he wasn't chopping up rubber, he was chopping up ammunition. Like, it was a war. So he's cutting up rubber. He got clocked. The teacher's like, okay, put all your rubber in the bin. So he goes to the bin, he pulls out all his rubber. We're watching him pour every single bit of rubber. Bearing in mind, he kind of needs this to rub stuff out, but clearly that was besides the point. He's putting all his rubber in the bin. Then, later in the lesson, me being me, I had my genius showing again, like Patrick. Shout out to everyone who watched SpongeBob and got that reference, but I had my genius showing. I was like, hold up. Hold up. If I throw this rubber at the teacher and it hits him in the head, he's not going to clock it was rubber because he can't see it. I mean, theoretically, it could be anything. It could just be a scratch to the head. You got a random itch. It could literally be anything. Something fell from the roof. Like, anything could touch your head. You're not going to assume it was rubber. You're not going to assume it was meat. But the guy's head's pretty big, so there was quite a big target zone to aim at. But the risk was if you miss, it will fly over his shoulder because there's nowhere else for it to go. Either fly over his shoulder, fly over his head. And then he will clock that it was rubber, and he will know the trajectory of the rubber, where it came from. You're in trouble. So this day, I don't know why, but I felt like doing this. I had a couple shots just to test it out. They went a bit low. Then I took the killer shot, and it missed. And he called off the whole practical. He told everyone, stop what you're doing. Who was that? And it was literally like some what do you call it? Some cowboy standoff kind of thing. Where we just sat there like, he stood there like, you know, the angry teacher sort. So they're like, yeah. So we just sat there like, I mean, it wasn't me. The next guy saying it wasn't me. The next guy saying it wasn't him. Next guy, blah, blah, blah. We just stood there. He's like, okay, cool. No one wants to own up. Guess we're not leaving. And this was the last period of the day. So he's like, guess we're not leaving until someone owns up. Everyone's like, oh. Then, I don't know why, he took a very sharp turn of events. Bear in mind, this is the same boy that swore at him. Do you know what kind of mental stage you've got to be in to swear at a teacher? Like, you've got to have lost all composure to swear at a teacher. Like, I don't know how he was even... I don't know how he didn't get, like, some isolation for that. I know I would have got in big trouble if I swore at a teacher. Anyway, the teacher blames this guy who literally poured his rubber into the bin. We all watched him do that. He blames him. So I knew immediately, okay, this is going to get good. But I didn't know it would get this good. So again, he swears at him. He says it wasn't me because it actually wasn't. I felt bad, but I'm like, yo, I'm on my last warning at this place for a lot of things. If you think I'm owning up for someone that I didn't even rate, you're mistaken. So this guy, the teacher's really going hard on this guy. And he's like, oh, I know it was you, really blaming him, blah, blah, blah. And then the guy just pulled a strop, ran out the room, got sent to the headmaster's office. So I'm sat there like, feeling just a little, not too bad, but just a little bit bad. I'm like, can't lie, that was my fault. I don't really rate him enough to be owning up on his behalf. Like, I don't rate you enough, but it's peak. I can accept it's peak. Anyway, next day, literally the next day, we have another chemistry lesson. And as we're lining up outside the room, the teacher comes to me. He's like, hey, Sarchi, I've got reason to believe that it wasn't him that threw the rubber. I'm like, oh, okay, interesting. He's like, yeah, I've got reason to believe that it was you. I'm like, that's strange. He's like, yeah, I've been told by a few people it was you. I'm like, don't know anything about it, sir. He's like, oh, okay, all right, cool. And that was the end of, no, it wasn't. So the next couple weeks later, obviously I wasn't stupid enough to do it the next lesson, but a couple lessons later, I think this would be the last mini event that I tell in this story. Just GCSE science in general. It could even just be GCSE chemistry, but the B story was from physics. So again, we're sat here. Shout out Emerald on this one. We're sat here. This time we're doing a bit more of a chemical practical, like real chemistry at this point. So we got magnesium, like magnesium phthalate. Magnesium's metal is kind of reactive. No pun intended. It's kind of reactive. And then we got hydrochloric acid, again, quite reactive as well. So if you put two things that are quite reactive, you're getting a reaction, no pun intended. You're not getting it from me. You're getting it from the acid and the metal. That something's going to happen. So normally that's minor, like we expect that to happen. So what we do, we get test tubes, fill them up with hydrochloric acid, and then drop the magnesium in, and then it fizzes. Normally it just fizzes a little bit, it bubbles a little bit. But I was like, wait a minute, why don't we reverse it? Why are we putting the metal into that acid when we could put the acid into the metal? Now you're probably sat there thinking, what are you talking? Why are you waffling? The metal was in a small pot. Yeah, like a very small pot, and you got some tweezers kind of thing. I forgot what they're called. Some tweezers, and then you just clip it out and then drop in the acid. Whoa, I reversed that. Instead, I didn't take the tweezers out. I got a pipette. Now, a pipette is some squeezy thing. You squeeze it into the bottle, let go, and it fills up with acid. Then I put that into the pot of all these metal filings. Don't know what I expected to happen, but what then happened, I wasn't too surprised. The pot got hot. I didn't even know that would rhyme, but it got very, very hot. I touched it, literally almost burnt my hand off, like literally no exaggeration at all. This was hot. I was like, I'm not getting involved. Gave it to some girl, shout out Emerald in this one, gave it to her. She touches it, she goes to hold it. I'm like, oh, can you put this at the front for me? Thank you. She's like, oh yeah, cool. She holds it. Literally almost burnt her hand off. So then eventually the teacher clocked. Someone put it at the front, I don't know who, someone put it at the front. The teacher went to touch it, almost burnt his hand off. Then he's like, stop what you're doing. Stop. Everyone has to pack up. I'm laughing at this point, but I'm also shaking a little bit because I'm like, yo, can't lie. I have to take the rap for this one. I can't let someone get blamed for me twice in a row. So instead of having a standoff we had last lesson, straight away he was like, who did this? I was like, I can't lie, it wasn't me. He's like, go outside. So I'm outside. He calls, you know those teachers that always call for backup? I'm like, yo, is your name Tony Stark to be calling for backup whenever something goes wrong there? It's not like you've got a city to save. You got a 15-year-old kid who misbehaved there. There's levels to this. Stop acting like you're an Avenger. Deal with it yourself. Instead, he called some backup teacher. She's not a science teacher, so she just pulled up. She didn't really know what was going on. She's like, what have you done? I was like, mixed the metal and acid. It kind of reacted. When I literally just said, I just wasn't supposed to do it, but I did it. She said, well, listen to instructions. Like, it's not her job. She's not qualified to know how serious it was. I really don't know what he thought would happen by calling for backup like that, because no one really understood the seriousness, the gravity of the situation apart from him. But it was pretty bad because we got these two ladies in the chemistry office, and they normally fiddle about with the chemicals, making sure everything's up to date, up to scratch. They had to come in and effectively defuse a bomb because of how hot this thing was getting. It was literally in a small little pot, and all that pressure was just condensed into a small space. If they didn't defuse it, it was just going to pop, and who knows how big that would have been. No one was really trying to see that happen. So that's what then happened. So they had to defuse that. I got a day of isolation for that. Fun fact, I had a football game immediately afterwards before they gave me my isolation. So I knew I had this cloud over my head. It's like in F1 when you're under investigation. You're still driving. You're trying your best to stop. You're still trying to overtake people, but you know it's probably all going to come crumbling down when they slap you with a 10-second stop go. I was stood there on the pitch. I scored twice in that game as well. Playing quite well, if I do say so myself. Then the next day came and I got slapped with an isolation just for one day. They put me in there for weeks at a time, months at a time, days and days at a time, every lunchtime and break at a time. So one day isolation really wasn't that deep. That's how I knew that he'd reached a point where you can't really do much about this. So that was that. Anyway, that's all I really got to say. GCSE science was very funny. Shout out to Samir, because I remember there would be times where we'd be scrolling on Instagram and we see posts from like I'm Just Bait and Bow Planet and all these things. Raps on raps, shout out raps on raps as well, my guy. And they're like, I'd do anything to go back and have one more science lesson. So we were sat there and we literally say to each other, yo, Carla, we need to make the most of this, because like literally right now I'm in year 13, I'm not there anymore. So we were saying to each other, yo, we need to make the most of this because it's not going to last forever. And right now we're at a point in our lives where this is so funny. I don't think we're going to be laughing like this ever again. So let's just make sure we make some memories. You just got an 18-minute video about those memories. So I could talk for longer if my memory's better. But I've been searching on for. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for 20k. I'll be back again soon.